Part 2. We've traveled through Tokyo, who still wants to simulate love? Author, Fei Se Hui-Xiang. Chapter 12. I want you to sign an illustrator contract with me. Contract. I've looked for you many times, but you never opened the door, Ishihara Rina. Silence is the greatest contempt, but I like to say no to this kind of thing. Of course you can continue to remain silent, but will the goblin fill you with words? Phew, I can't guarantee it. I promise you, I'll sign. And your phone number? 070XXXXXXXX. Looking at Rina Ishihara's reply in seconds, Asaba Kazuma could imagine the helpless expression of the girl shivering on the chair. Cute, think. He knew Ishihara Rina agreed. The existence of social fear seems to refuse to go deep, but as long as the gap is pried open, she will let him do whatever he wants. As for whether his current behavior is a crime, come on, this is a simulation, he is here to try and make mistakes. First use simulation to forcefully contact Ishihara Rina and understand her situation. When necessary, it is not impossible to go a little too far. Asaba Kazuma looked at his phone and made a decision. You untied her rope and found that Fairy Kimura looked at you a little strangely. Standing next to Fairy Kimura, Asaba Kazuma's face was extremely calm. The moisture in the girl's eyes had disappeared at this time, and she was looking at him with extremely complicated eyes. Being proficient in Russian, he instantly understood what this meant. I've already thought of the posture, idiot. You Kimura Fairy, you are so narcissistic. Do I look like someone who would compromise for such a thing? Asaba Kazuma pretended that she didn't understand and said. Rina-chan is too shy, so I can only take some extreme measures. Kimura, you don't want your friend to be unable to stand in the sun for the rest of his life, right? Fairy Kimura hesitated for a moment, then raised her head and looked at him. Don't hurt her, Rina is my only friend in Tokyo. I don't count. You could have been. Kimura did not choose to call the police in the end. On the way home, you successfully got the contract for Rina Ishihara's light novel illustration cooperation. At the door of Ishihara's house after returning home, you saw the background message. Rina-chan asked you in a very careful tone why you did such an extreme thing you chose. The little bluebird replied, I just like to tease a stupid lady like you. SMS reply, because I want to try the actions you drew with Rina-chan. Make a call, I have been waiting for a year, just waiting for an opportunity, I want to fight for it. Free simulation. Asaba Kazuma looked at the options. Although he did have the idea of teasing Ishihara Rina, wouldn't this bitch-like tone really scare people away? The option is in line with his expectations. This is a pure love simulation. He is afraid that he wants to try the taste of green apples. But considering that every simulation he made was preparing for his future in reality, he finally thought about it for a moment and decided not to scare the cowardly little swan. Asaba Kazuma chose. You dialed her phone number. Asaba Kazuma's perspective was divided into two again. The memory scene unfolds. The difference from before is that this time Ishihara Rina's perspective is no longer from the back, but from the front. Only now did he have the opportunity to take a good look at the invisible heroine. From this angle, he could just see the beautiful bridge of her nose under her long eyelashes, as well as her rosy and clear eyes, but with a little grievance. Lip. She was startled when she heard the phone ring. Hello, a waxy voice came. This is our first meeting, Rina-chan. I'm sorry to have to contact you in this way. My name is Asaba Kazuma. Rina Ishihara, who was sitting in front of the computer, kept her head down. After hearing his name, she raised her head in surprise. When she saw the young man's smile on the computer screen, she felt like she was being watched. Her cheeks turned red, and she lowered her head subconsciously even though she was in her room. What's wrong? Cooperate, Rina-chan. Under my guidance, You and the Goblin can definitely become the biggest story in the light novel circle in the past 10 years. He has not forgotten that the characters who can become customized girlfriends are all talented girls with special talents or skills. He has a clear grasp of exciting points and hot spots, but the content is not outstanding. The writing style of Goblin is unique, but it lacks some routine. Rina's painting style has remarkable tension, but lacks a bit of fame. By combining the three, and with the help of the large platform of Dengeki Bunko, pigs can fly high. He deliberately lowered his voice. Rina, aren't you willing to help me? When saying this, Asahi Kazuma glanced at the girl in the split view intentionally. Sure enough, she was at the computer desk looking at the lock screen wallpaper carefully with her peripheral vision. When she felt her eyes and his on the screen, she lowered her head again. I can't do this for a person like me. Lily-chan's books are very good. You shouldn't let me hold her back. She paused for a long time before whispering this sentence. It doesn't matter, Jian Yufengjian snorted and said, I've been waiting for a year, just waiting for an opportunity. I want to fight for it. I don't want to prove that I am great, but I just want to prove that I must grab the toy I like. Return. You know that Rina Ishihara is a person who has extremely no confidence in herself. Simple reasons are not enough to make her come out of the dark corner, but you do not want to use conventional means to make her obey. I don't want to delay her. I know she recommends me to you for my own good, Ishihara, Rina said in a low voice. Is it really impossible? Jianyu Kazuma said. I'm very sorry. Although she was not facing him directly, Ishihara Rina felt a pain in her heart and her expression was a little sad. He wasn't angry, he just grabbed the phone, stared straight at the picture he forwarded from the Goblin, and said astonishingly. You haven't seen me for a few days. Do you miss me? Asaba Kazuma paused for a moment, and then continued, after all, Kimura hasn't had time to send you my new photo, so Rina-chan must be very sad, right? Ishihara Rina was a little dizzy at first. When she heard these words, she felt a bolt from the blue. The blush instantly spread from her collarbone to the tips of her ears, and she said in panic. Yes, I'm sorry. It's useless to say sorry, after all, the evidence is conclusive. Asaba Kazuma used the computer to flip through the illustrations that Rina Ishihara sent to Kimura one by one. The unique illustrations, every close-up of the protagonist, and that smile are like the warm sunshine in winter, making people feel swaying. If anyone knows Asaba Kazuma, they will immediately equate this character with him. Rina-chan, in the chat history between you and Kimura, you have more than once guided Kimura's conversation about light novels in a direction related to me, and induced Kimura to send you my photos. This is why. Yes, it's because. Almost every time Kimura sends you a photo, the next time you give her feedback on the book, there will be famous scene-level illustrations. Is this a coincidence? Asaba Kazuma's voice was a little louder. I actually. Rina Ishihara wanted to explain in a panic. At the beginning of every month, I will talk to Kimura about her current creative situation. You know this, right? She closed her lips in pain and gave up speaking. Do you have any special feelings for me? You know that at this time, I will definitely chat with Kimura about the progress of her works, and Kimura likes to record all beautiful things on her mobile phone, including people. So when this time comes, you will definitely deliberately arouse Kimura's emotions and pretend to be careless, but in fact it is to get my photos out of her hands, because you will get stimulation from my photos. No. How could? You don't have to hide it. In fact, a considerable number of artists never hesitate to go through alleys in order to stimulate their creative desires. The hobby of stimulating inspiration also varies from person to person. Please, can you be more serious? I'm very serious. If you really want my photos, why don't you just ask me to give them to you? I'm still very confident in my appearance. It's because you don't want me to know, isn't it? Perhaps your original intention was to get my photos from Kimura, so you used this method, but if I tell you, I also started chatting with Kimura frequently at the beginning of the past month just so that you could get my photos. Rina Ishihara felt that her head was about to burn. Qian Yufengma's voice was too calm, as if he was talking about what he had eaten today, and he said slowly. It is a great pleasure for me to let you get inspiration from my photos without Kimura's knowledge. This excites me more than reading your notebook. Hey, hey, hey. So, are you the pervert for peeping at me, or am I the pervert for enjoying your peeping? Rina-chan, we are accomplices. Xiao Rina stopped thinking. After a while, Rina Ishihara's legs trembled and she almost fell off the chair, and her big glasses fell to the ground. She reluctantly adjusted her sitting posture, her heart beating so fast. The annoying shyness made her bury her head in her knees, leaving only the red ears to show her mood. Ruined. She let out a wail. It was also at this moment that Asaba Kazuma, who was receiving the memory of the simulated scene, saw her messy bangs lifted up due to the action of cooling her forehead with one hand, revealing the girl's beautiful and moist little face. A woman's blush is better than a long dialogue. Kinya Kazuma's heart skipped a beat. Oops, I almost got excited. We've traveled through Tokyo, who still wants to simulate love? Author, Fei Se Huixiang. Chapter 13. Chapter 13. World-famous painting Kimura Ferry is working on the manuscript. What kind of experience does it feel like when a boy who is secretly paying attention to you discovers the secret? Qian Kazuma didn't know that he was not a girl. But looking at the picture, Rina Ishihara remained silent, her red lips pursed tightly, and she looked out the door for help. There were some wet marks in her peach blossom eyes, as if she was about to cry after being bullied. Asahi Kazuma's voice on the phone was also a little gentler. Do you hate me so much? Rina Ishihara shook her head hard. At this time, Kinya Fengjian said softly. Rina-chan knows about my current situation, right? I have no way out. The only people who can help me are you and Kimura. Now I just need you to take a step forward, and everything will change. I really feel like I can't do it. The expression on her face was shaken, but she was still holding back because she was afraid of bad things. Then do you believe me? You know how to bully people, she whispered. But I'm trustworthy, right? If you're so afraid of taking a step forward, then hold on to my hand and I'll take you to the door of the new world. He paused for a moment and made a devilish bewitching sound. Although this may be a bit redundant, it's okay to take as many photos as you want. If we go further, it depends on your performance, Rina-chan. Asahi Kazuma's words penetrated her almost instantly. Guilt, shyness, and heartbeat changed repeatedly on her face, and she was shaken like never before. Just help Lily-chan, she was about to cry. After hearing this, he showed a satisfied smile and said in a bewitching and playful tone. Rina-chan, self-satisfaction is a fascinating thing. Once you taste it, you will know the taste. You will never be able to look back. Congratulations to you, for jumping into my trap. Our contract is now established. You are now in front of the computer, Ishihara Rina. Her legs are weak and at a loss, and she is in a very comfortable mood. Dark Elf Don't Want to Be Confessed Volume 1 was released. Sales were average at first, but the Kimura Fairy, who was domesticated into the shape of your thoughts, finally showed the outside world for the first time how terrifying Shuangguan is, controlled by amazing writing power and writing style. As the author and current editor of Reincarnated Succubus, you praised Kimura Fairy's new book on your Twitter and called her the successor of my dream, attracting a large number of old fans to read, and by word of mouth quickly reversed, and sales exploded from the third week onwards. The first volume sold 120,000 a month. You fulfilled your promise and got a promise from the editor to change the illustrator 2 months later. With the anxious anticipation of fans, Dark Fairy Doesn't Want to Be was released with the illustrations of Rina Ishihara. The Accused Volume 2 is officially on sale. With your promotion, the decision to animate Dark Elf was confirmed. You found Animation Studio, the production company that had previously promoted the animation of Reincarnated Succubus. Now, due to the company's poor management and the intense poaching of people by peers, Animation Studio has fallen into a business crisis. You talked with the president all night long and gave him the first and second volumes of Dark Elf to watch. The president invited the supervisor of the animation studio Dingai Shenzhen to watch it in person that night. The president and the supervisor made a violation. The decision made by the ancestors, they want to bet on the future of construction. The first volume sold 200,000 per month. The almost perfect complementarity between the writing style and the painting style made Dark Elf a real hit. With the decision to animate, and the personal platform of the president and supervisor, under your leadership of the script, the performance shocked the industry. The third volume of Dark Fairy was released half a year later. In half a year, the sales volume of Dark Fairy approached 600,000 copies. Qian Yufengma took a breath of cold air. How many? 600,000 in half a year? In previous years, such sales have exceeded the annual sales of many novels. Some works may even fail to reach this amount in total sales until they are completed. And now, half a year. It's only half a year. A new author, without any additional publicity, can reach 600,000 by virtue of his well-known quality. Like your horse dreaming. Is this the power of genius united with genius? You occasionally go to Kimura Fairy's house to push for manuscripts. Kimura complains that she is getting busier and busier now, and the pressure from all parties is a bit too much. She now spends most of her time on collecting materials and writing articles. After preparing refreshments for you, she hid in front of the computer to work on the manuscript. While Kimura was frantically working on the manuscript, you were forcing Rina Ishihara to have a video call with you, euphemistically calling it a refresher. She, who was not good at rejecting you, reluctantly agreed. On the tablet computer in Asaba Kazuma's hand, there is the figure of Rina Ishihara bending over the tablet and working hard to draw. What Fairy Kimura didn't know was that while she was working on the manuscript, the good editor behind her had already bullied Rina Ishihara. Every time he whispered to Ishihara Rina to draw her more erotically, she would always open her eyes wide and shake her head in refusal, her beautiful eyes pure and charming. In the dim room, the computer light shone on her fair skin, and Asahi Kazuma suddenly wished that time would stop at this moment. This is where? Kimura Fairy House. What is Asaba Kazuma doing? He was teasing Rina Ishihara. But where is the Kimura Fairy? Fairy Kimura is working on a manuscript. System prompt: you have unlocked the achievement world-famous painting. Kimura Fairy is working on the manuscript. Achievement point: add 1. Fairy Kimura sent you home as you passed the intersection where you almost got stabbed 3 times. You smiled and pointed at the lily on the stage that day. Look, Miss Fairy, even if there is only one lily left, you and her can still succeed. Don't be superstitious. Just believe me. Fairy Kimura was stunned for a moment, then suddenly realized, did Rina-chan actually tell you the story of Lily Flower? In this timeline, she didn't tell you about her agreement with Lily. Asaba Kazuma was immersed in the joy of the continuous advancement of the strategy. Suddenly, a new pop-up window made his scalp tingle. You and Fairy Kimura are getting busier and busier with the animation of Dark Elf. The number of high-quality authors under you has begun to increase dramatically. On this day, your senior told you that there will be a power outage in some parts of Tokyo today because there is a problem in a power generation area of TEPCO that needs repairs. He knows that you don't watch the news very much, so he told you to bring flashlights, candles and updates when you go home. Commonly used medical facilities at home. When you got home, you wanted to start a video to tease the girl who always blushed nervously, but this time, you didn't get a response from her. You noticed something was wrong, maybe because of Rina's guilt towards you. As long as it's not too much, she would try her best to satisfy you. This is the first time in half a year that she didn't answer your call. You contacted Fairy Kimura. Fairy Kimura smiled and asked you not to be nervous. Ishihara Rina doesn't leave home, so the use of phone calls for her is infinitely reduced. The app software uses the Wi-Fi she usually connects directly to, so she often forgets to recharge her phone many times. She still can't get through Rina's phone, so she needs to recharge her phone before contacting her up. Kimura Fairy charged Rina Ishihara's phone bill and called again, but no one answered, so you choose. Send her the photo of Kimura Fairy being stuffed into a puff. After get off work, night attack on Ishihara's house. Go directly to the Ishihara family and show her how powerful you are. Free simulation. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. We've traveled through Tokyo. Who still wants to simulate love? Author, Fei Se Hui-Xiang. Chapter 14. Kinya Kazuma frowned. He instinctively felt something was wrong. He calculated the time and found that the second simulation was interrupted at about this time. In the two simulations, the same situation occurred at about the same time? Could it be? A subtle uneasiness arose in his heart, and he directly chose the option of killing the Ishihara family directly. You fought towards the Ishihara family looking at the closed door. You kicked it open without hesitation and rushed into the room. You found Ishihara Rina passed out under the corridor. You stepped forward to pick her up and found that her whole body was extremely hot. The high fever took away her physical strength and spirit, and even her breathing became as thin as mist. Asahi Kazuma held her hand, and she was still holding the phone in her hand. Without saying a word, he picked her up and rushed out the door, got in the car and went straight to the hospital. In the car, Kinya Kazuma lowered his eyelids and looked at her red face. When his hands caressed her cheeks, he vaguely heard her chanting someone's name in his arms. Kinya Kazuma lowered her body to listen, but heard her sobbing softly. Don't call Lily-chan, she's very busy." He was speechless, his eyes fell down and landed on her mobile phone. "Let go." He suddenly felt a little angry, but quickly realized that now was not the time. So he could only say dully, "Don't you have any fever-reducing medicine at home?" Rina Ishihara opened her eyes in confusion, the crimson color mixed with the red color of high fever. She quietly turned her head away to prevent him from seeing her desolate face. Eat. I originally wanted to carry it on my own and get over it, but the medicine seems to have expired," she said weakly and cautiously, as if she was afraid of being scolded. Now she is as obedient as a doll at the mercy of others. "I'm sorry," she whispered again. Asahi Kazuma held her finger slightly forcefully and unlocked the phone. She stubbornly turned her head away, not daring to look at him. The mobile page stays on the line chat window. Line status among Japanese young people is equivalent to WeChat in its previous life. Asahi Kazuma likes to be alone, but he does not exclude social interaction. Naturally, he also has Line. He has many friends on the account, including high school classmates and colleagues who are good friends. If you count them, there are probably 200 to 300. There are only 4 people in Ishihara Rina's account. Father, Mother, Lily-chan, Bad Guy. The avatar of Bad Guy is a 2D avatar of Asahi Kazuma. Rina Ishihara's avatar is a little girl looking up at the sky. She doesn't use Line much, and seems to prefer using the private messaging function in the background of Little Blue Bird. There are several messages on Line. "Have you rested, Big Bad Guy? I've finished drawing the illustrations for the next volume. Do you want to come and take a look? I seem to have a fever. I will go to the hospital after I leave the illustration to you. Where are you, Big Bad Guy? Can I go find you? I'm so scared." 4 messages, all showing failure to send. Rina Ishihara's home is in a power outage area. There was no Wi-Fi due to the power outage, and she forgot to recharge her phone bill and lost data, which instantly cut off her contact with the outside world. Asahikazuma's heart trembled slightly. He seemed to be able to feel the scene of the girl calling for help to him in the dark room, feeling confused due to fever and shaking uneasily. She is a social terror, and for her, the doorstep of her home is a doomsday zone of lightning, thunder, and torrential rain. She wanted to hold someone's hand to resist the uneasiness and fear, and even tried to attract him with the finished illustration. The 4 people in line were the only people she could call for help. The first 2 have lost contact forever, and he can probably guess the reason why they are not called Kimura fairies. It's probably because the fairy said that she has been busy writing manuscripts recently. Just such a confused murmur can reflect so many things in his mind. That's because Asahikazuma knew that she lacked the ability to express her thoughts after living in seclusion for a long time. Just like when she was threatened by Kimura fairy's safety, she didn't curse at all, and her words were concise to the extreme. He could see that she was a girl who didn't want to cause trouble to others. She repeatedly refused to draw illustrations for her friends' novels. It was not that she was unwilling to help, but that she was afraid that she was incapable and would not be able to help her friend. So she must have felt like she couldn't bear it anymore, so she asked him for help. As for why she didn't call him first before the power went out, some questions don't need to be asked. He actually already guessed the answer and was afraid of disturbing his work. Twitter is different. To fish is to play Twitter. By then, you may be able to see her cry for help. She was like a shy kitten, even though she was dizzy with hunger, she was still cautious when she stretched out her paws. Qian Yufengjian raised his eyes to look at her, his eyes flushed red. As long as you call me for help, no matter how far away you are, I will come to you. It has nothing to do with love, if leaving early can save a life, he will always be happy to do so. The taxi driver didn't say anything. Ever since the boy anxiously got into the car, he had already exhausted what he had learned throughout his life. Asabakazuma picked up her body, and he felt like she was about to fly away, just like in the second simulation. Don't sleep yet, okay? He considers himself an arrogant person and has never been humbled. But at this moment, Asabakazuma hoped to use such shallow words to make this poor girl stay in this world that she did not dare to face. Asian Yukazuma. Ishihararina slowly pushed his hand away, raised her head, chuckled and said the most touching words in her life. You came again with thousands of troops and horses to kill. She didn't scream again. Ishihararina accidentally stepped out of time, and once she left time, she became fixed. The car is still running fast as time passes, but no matter how fast a sports car is, it can't catch up with time. Every minute he sat in the car felt like he was being roasted by fire. After an unknown amount of time, when the driver shouted "We're here," his body rushed towards the hospital faster than his consciousness. He didn't know how he spent his time. All he knew was that when the doctor shook his head at him, his mind went blank, and he couldn't even hear what Kimura called him when he heard the news. Asahikazuma slowly squatted down, and then he felt a burning pain in his foot. It was the sprain caused by him kicking the door. But he no longer cared about this. When a cart covered with white cloth was rolled out of the emergency room, he seemed to hear the heart-rending cry of a goblin. Very noisy. He felt like a dog that had its backbone ripped out. At the end, she was still calling her friend's name, and regarded him as the knight destined to save her, but they all arrived too late. Asabakazuma speculated that the second simulation interruption was most likely due to Ishihararina's death. I thought the simulation would end here, but new content jumped out. Sometimes you wonder if the ending would have been different if you had picked that flower early. The news that the author of the popular Beautiful Girl light adaptation manga Kimura Seiki burst into tears, and the genius editor-in-chief Asabakazuma was stunned outside the operating room was published in the local newspaper, but none of this attracted the attention of others. Everyone in the industry knows that Dark Fairy can be so crazy, firstly because of Kimura's writing style, and secondly because of Rina Ishihara's illustrations. Some people even bought the book without hesitation just for the illustrations in the novel. Ishihara Rina surprised the world for the first time, using her own paintings. The second time that shocked the world was in the newspaper. At that time, she was dressed up by a female undertaker. She was wearing a plain white chiffon skirt. Her skin that had not seen the light for a long time was like white porcelain and beautiful jade. Her long hair was shawl. She looks confused and beautiful as she sleeps. She is the real Sleeping Beauty. You and Fairy Kimura attended her funeral. Kimura said she wanted to visit Ishihara Rina's house, and you agreed to her request. We've traveled through Tokyo. Who still wants to simulate love? Author, Fei Se Hui Xiang. Chapter 15. Chapter 15. Arriving at Ishihara Rina's house, Asaba Kazuma saw someone cleaning the house. That was Ishihara Rina's grandmother, who stayed in the village in the countryside. The old man's face was numb, but he did not stop the two from entering. Instead, he led them directly to Ishihara Rina's room. Go say goodbye to her, she said. The two of them stepped into Ishihara Rina's room for the first time. The room had been tidied up, and he saw a stack of original paintings on the tablet on the computer desktop. He walked over and flipped through the clean original painting, which was the original manuscript for the 4th volume of Dark Elf. Kimura turned his head away and sobbed softly. Asahi Kazuma slowly flipped through the manuscript, and suddenly felt something was wrong. The manuscript paper is too thick. Flipping all the way down, he saw a stack of 4-frame comics on a piece of drawing paper. The midday sun fell on the 4-frame cartoon. It was a story he had never seen before. The story begins in kindergarten and describes the life of a girl named Rina /. We've traveled through Tokyo. Who still wants to simulate love? Author, Fei Se Hui Xiang. Chapter 16. Chapter 16. This is really. After leaving the simulation, Asahi Kazuma sighed. Suddenly I felt some stomach pain. Damn Ishihara Rina, why did you do such an embarrassing operation? I just want to have a good cyber love, and then use the skills of Goldfinger to reach the top of my life in the real world. Wouldn't it be nice for you to honestly have a non-breakup relationship in the game and turn it into a resource for my growth? He can be sure that he has no feelings for Ishihara Rina, but emotions were not something he could control. What remains in the love simulation is just an experience, a reflection that may happen in the future. It cannot touch his reality, and it is unlikely to accompany her into the future. When he broke away from the simulation and returned to normal, real life, he also knew very well that everything that happened here was just a story, a virtual story. It might not be long before he forgets these things, these words, and her existence. But at least not now. Kinya Kazuma slowly closed his eyes, and in a daze, he recalled his short life in his previous life. Because there was no one to enlighten him and his parents didn't have much ability, he could only try and gain experience on his own. The cost of trial and error was too high, and one wrong step could lead to disaster. Because he kept his head down and rushed along, forgetting to look up at the road, he couldn't see the correct direction in life. But at least here, he has a choice. Saving you has nothing to do with you. Ishihara Rina, be mentally prepared. This time, the game restarts. He opened the achievement store, and sure enough, he saw a novel in the achievements column of the store. Did I do something wrong when I was reincarnated as a succubus? Unlock/price, 1 point. Sure enough, once the simulation score for one game exceeds 30 points, I can purchase the results I achieved in the original time and space simulation. Select result, did I do something wrong when I was reincarnated as a succubus, /. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. We've traveled through Tokyo. Who still wants to simulate love? Author, Fei Se Hui Xiang. Chapter 17. In a flash of lightning, accompanied by a burst of explosions, the tennis ball passed by Shimura Kazuya's ear. His eyes widened and he froze, only then did he realize that the ball had fallen into his court. What is that? Shimura Kazuya stared at the ball's landing point. He couldn't understand why this was happening. Theoretically, a tennis ball has a flight time and distance. With the support of certain nerve reflexes, you can hit the ball towards the enemy's corner at the extreme distance, then quickly adjust your body to launch into the path of the opponent swinging the racket to hit the tennis ball, and hit back again. Forming a perfect angle of a triangle can achieve this triangle killing effect. It sounds simple to say, but anyone who actually plays tennis knows that there are talented tennis players who can determine the landing point of the tennis ball in advance through prediction, or use superb skills to induce the opponent to counter-attack in the general direction. But, these are more about prediction and skills, rather than purely relying on neural reflexes. This kind of nerve reflex speed is as terrifying as a ghost. Take volleyball in the major sports event as an example. Compared with the men's volleyball team, women's volleyball games are more entertaining and can better demonstrate skills. But in the men's volleyball team, the duel between volleyball players will basically become snapped, snapped, snapped. Scenes like this exploded again and again. The ball is so fast that even the women's volleyball team, who is also part of the national team, may not be able to see it clearly, let alone catch it. When physical fitness reaches a certain level, the skills of ball games will decline, or in other words, more ingenious skills are needed to support the game, and fancy skills are often abandoned. It's not that others don't want to use it, but in high-intensity competitions, normal people's nerve reflexes and body flexibility are no longer enough to support the performance of this technology in such situations, and they can only rely more on physical fitness to attack. This is especially true for small ball sports like tennis. Asahi Kazuma smiled. As he expected, after completing the temporary activities and gaining one physical strength, his body had changed from a sickly state to a level that was out of sub-health and close to that of a regular high school sports student. Although his physical fitness is not top-notch, with the enhanced nerve reflexes of his body reflexes even exceed the judgment made by his brain. This reminded him of Akutsugen from the tennis club of Yamabuki Junior High School in The Prince of Tennis. Akutsu in Tennis King has developed motor nerves, outstanding destructive power, speed, flexibility, and balance. He is a sports genius. In the anime, he once injured Akaizen Ryoma with a tennis racket, and once relied on his developed motor nerves and physical fitness to cause great trouble to Akaizen Ryoma in a tennis match. This genius who does good and evil as he pleases may be a bit ordinary in the world of super-powered tennis, but in reality, he is a monster-level existence. Now his physical strength is estimated not to be as strong as Akutsu's, but he can't resist his stronger nerve reflexes. Adjusting genes and strengthening nerve reflexes has been initially activated. You will be able to exert your physical fitness more effectively in the eyes of Shimura Kazuya. You are like a ghost on the tennis court, using various quick reactions that are difficult for him to understand, accurately getting stuck on the route of every return shot, just like a nightmare that cannot go away in his heart. You absolutely killed the game. System prompt: you have unlocked the achievement but you are still far away, achievement point add 1. The coach of the tennis club was shocked after seeing your live performance and sincerely invited you to join the tennis club. He had a premonition that you would become in high school's trump card to dominate the college league you choose. Coach, I want to play tennis. Are you teaching me how to do things? It is my lifelong belief to be admitted to Tokyo University, need to pay more. Qian Yufengjian pondered. The option is undoubtedly the orthodox sports student plot. It is estimated that it is to enter the national college competition and then embark on a professional path. The option 2 shows a bit of unruliness and fear of causing trouble. The option is more compromise, and it seems that it can also subsidize household expenses. So he chooses Of course I chose. His purpose is to save Rina Ishihara, not to come here to play The Sims. The option is obviously more free and more in line with his subsequent arrangements. This is the case in Japan. As long as you are strong enough, even if you are unruly, you will be regarded as having personality, and you can even get more privileges by relying on this personality. You did not agree to the coach's request, and jokingly said that Bean High School is a school that focuses on the admission rate, and the strength of the tennis club members is even more rubbish, not worth mentioning. This seriously hurt the hearts of the members of the tennis club. They all clamored to challenge you. You agreed and made an agreement with them to have a formal duel after school tomorrow. After returning home that night, you submitted the previous volume of The Reincarnation of Succubus to Yuzuki Tamura, the editor-in-chief of Denjiki Bunko, and found the account of Rina-chan on Twitter. Here the scene unfolds again. In front of the computer, Kinya Kazuma pondered for a moment and decided to take the initiative. Rina Ishihara's tragedy was not simply caused by the Tokyo blackout and fever. In fact, during her death, she had countless opportunities to save herself, but she lost the best opportunity for treatment because of her fear of the outside world, her lack of confidence in herself, and her unlimited tenderness towards her friends. Even without the Tokyo blackout, Ishihara Rina's ability to resist risks in life is still unimaginably low. Her living conditions are not even as good as those lonely old people in Japan who sometimes die of illness at home for a month, and no one finds out until they stink. Most lonely elderly people can at least contact their neighbors. Ishihara Rina, she put up a wall for herself. Asahi Kazuma decided to cut a hole in this wall first. In the third simulation, he could clearly feel that, as long as the bottom line was not touched, Ishihara Rina almost took everything she wanted from herself, or the people she considered friends. Thinking of this, he evoked a wanton smile. Ishihara Rina, this is a white lie made up to correct your awkward personality. That night, Asahi Kazuma discovered that he was backstage, and Rina Ishihara had approved his application. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and he immediately replied. Catch a night owl, Rina-san, why are you secretly using Twitter behind my back? After a while, the account nicknamed Rina-chan slowly replied with a question mark. Asahi Kazuma chuckled. If he wanted to break through Ishihara Rina's heart, he needed to take some necessary measures. Even if it's a lie. Asahi Kazuma, Sister Rina, how are you doing in Kumamoto Prefecture now? At the same time, from the perspective of Rina Ishihara. She had just gotten up from the bed and curled up on the chair. She looked at the friend she had just added in the background with a puzzled expression. She tilted her head and replied curiously. Omega, who are you? I have never been to Kumamoto Prefecture. We've traveled through Tokyo, who still wants to simulate love? Author, Fei Se Hui-Xiang. Chapter 18. Looking at Ishihara Rina's cute emoticons, Asahi Kazuma suddenly felt like she was in another world. He shook his head and typed a line of words seriously. Hey, did I add the wrong person? Sorry, I thought it was a young lady I know. Hee, it's okay. Occasionally I add the wrong stranger, laughing. Chien-Yu Kazuma touched his chin. In the previous simulations, the latest time he would come into contact with Ishihara Rina would be a year later. He did not expect that at this point in time, Ishihara Rina did not seem to be as difficult to contact as he imagined. Etc. Could it be because of that destined 3-stroke and 6-hole match? In the fourth simulation, Ishihara Rina apparently almost took the most crucial step to save the old lady and her daughter from Xiaoshang Cheo. Although she retreated when the critical moment came, it at least meant that she had not yet experienced the isolation of living alone for a year. There was a light in his eyes. Maybe it's because Ishihara Rina hasn't completely drowned in the dark corner yet. You find that she can at least communicate with others now, so you decide. Hey, big sister is very free anyway, come and chat with me. You are still on Twitter at this time, Sister, do you not have a boyfriend? There is no one to play with me, so my sister can be my toy. Free simulation. Asaba Kazuma, 6. Where did this female imp appear? Oops, it turns out to be me. Damn it, am I a person with such a personality? Isn't this an insult to someone's innocence? He thought for a moment and made a decision. Ishihara Rina is not a hentai elder sister who wants to hold him down and ravage him wantonly. In other words, if she had the courage, she would not have made no progress in the previous simulations. Not to mention the option, unless he directly kills Ishihara Rina offline, beats her hard, and lets her be his little hook, otherwise this option is directly the answer to death. Choose. The memory scene unfolds. Qian Yufengjian thought for a moment and sent a message. Hey, sister seems to be very free. It's fate that I can join you. Do you want to come and chat with me? Hey, but I'm not familiar with you. It's okay. If you're not familiar with it, you can get to know it. I just took a look. Sister, what you shared a year ago was Tokyo Skytree. Sister, do you live in Tokyo? Ah, what's wrong? I'm living in Tokyo temporarily. Hey, maybe we live very close and can go to the arcade. I'm a rotten need. I live in an abandoned house in Heisei and can't go out. As Asaba Kazuma expected, Ishihara Rina directly chose to refuse. If this guy was really so easy to deal with, he wouldn't have been unable to see her before. This guy must first let his guard down. Asayu Kazuma decisively changed her strategy and began to suffer miserably. Sister, are you going to reject me too? I thought I could make a few friends through the internet, but I'm alone in Tokyo and I have no friends. Ah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hate you. But didn't my sister reject me? In the memory scene split into two, in Ishihara Rina's dim little room, the girl bit her thumbnail. Judging from her appearance, she seemed a little confused. Asaba Kazuma struck while the iron was hot and said, Sister, don't be embarrassed, I'm used to it. These words instantly broke Ishihara Rina's guard. The experiences she had experienced since she was a child and how she was afraid of society came pouring out, as if someone was holding her throat, making it impossible for her to breathe. When she came back to her senses, she found that she had already sent the message, it's not like we can't be friends. Qian Yufengmo laughed loudly. After all, Rina-chan couldn't resist the request of someone who was suffering from the same disease. The poor person who hugs each other for warmth is the persona he has set for himself. Obviously, Rina Ishihara loves this. The cunning you used empathy as a sharp sword to pierce Ishihara Rina's heart wall, and you and Ishihara Rina became friends. The chat topics between you have begun to increase based on the experience of the previous simulations. You know that Ishihara Rina has always been reading light novels, so you take the initiative to bring the topic in this direction. Sister, do you know the book Sister Sister game that is very popular recently? All my friends are like this. As expected, Rina Ishihara took the bait, ha ha ha, there are many people in the circle I follow, and the home delivery service also sent me a book yesterday. Hey, I bought a copy yesterday and read it until 3 in the morning. This novel is quite interesting. I'm about the same as you. I stayed up late yesterday to read this, but the author really likes to write about it. I think it's okay. It's not as bitter as the Otome novel. But if a girl stays up late reading a novel, will she lose energy the next day? Mau Mau blushes.jpg, it's okay if I say it, after all, I don't go out now. Sister, don't you have to go to school? I'm what you call a NEET, the one who is hopeless. No, I think my sister is pretty good at talking. Is it because you don't want to go to school for some reason? It's not because you're being bullied. Bullying is quite serious in schools now. Rina Ishihara looked at the words sent by Asaba Kazuma, and little Gio grabbed the chair. He is still helping me find excuses, and he is quite nice. What a little angel. So she replied, there are indeed some reasons, but you should still be a student. Don't you have any friends in school? Asahikazuma laughed softly. It was a good thing that Ishihararina was willing to understand her situation. Once a crack is torn in the closed heart wall, the crack will become wider and wider as time goes by, and surging emotions will flood everything like a tide. This is not something Ishihararina can control. He replied, because I came to Tokyo from Kumamoto Prefecture to study. It's a bit lonely here alone. Moreover, I often went to the hospital in the past few years. It is only recently that my health has recovered a lot. Rina-chan, hey, are you not feeling well? It's a thing of the past. Because I often went to the hospital, I didn't have many friends at school. Yesterday afternoon, I was hated by some people because I saved people. In front of the computer, Ishihararina paused while shaking her head and held her breath. You told me about your courageous act, and the time and place were exactly right. This aroused Rina Ishihara's suspicion. She tried to wait for you to tell you about it, but you were cunning and deliberately changed the topic. Ishihararina really wanted to ask you, but you deliberately didn't tell her and instead changed the topic to light novels. The memory scene unfolds. Sister game is really interesting. After reading it, I want to start writing an article. Well, I'll do it as soon as I think of it. I'll submit it to Denjiki Bunko tonight. Do you want to write a novel too? What's wrong, Rina-san, do you want to write too? Oh, Carrot, oh actually, it's not me, it's a friend of mine. Is the friend you are talking about yourself? No, her name is Lily-chan, a very cute girl. Do I look good? Picture.jpg. Asahikazuma raised her phone without hesitation, took a selfie and sent it. We've traveled through Tokyo, who still wants to simulate love? Author, Fei Se Hui-siang. Chapter 19. On the other side of the memory scene, Rina Ishihara stared blankly at the corners of the boy's eyes in the photo. The light cast in the bright room gave his cold expression a hazy halo. Just by looking into his eyes, you would fall in love with the boy's eyes and lips. The boy was like the sunshine on an autumn afternoon. Laughing, and then sinking. As she looked at it, she lightly traced her finger across the screen, and could vaguely see the blush starting from her collarbone and climbing up. Ah, it turns out it's really you, little knight. Ishihararina was confused. Every message you sent after that, Rina Ishihara no longer had the heart to see you. You were once her unreachable dream, the courage she could not show, and her longing. It has nothing to do with love, it's just that on that windy afternoon, you did what she longed for but was out of reach. Only you and her know that she once had a dream. In the dream, she bravely opened the door of her home and embraced the hot sunshine, but the reality is that she has retreated into a dark corner again. That light is too dazzling. Now, the light falls on her again. With network protection, the light seems less dazzling. That night, Rina Ishihara had a happy and fulfilling dream. Your relationship with Rina Ishihara has deepened. Wonderful. Although he was still absorbing the content of the memory scene, Asahikazuma in the simulation space couldn't help but clapped his hands. A perfect start. If he could follow his script, Asahikazuma felt that the simulation might yield quite unexpected results. The next day, you came to the Bean High School Tennis Club. You knew that from today on, your life would completely take a different trajectory. Yes, when the members of the tennis club fell to your hands one after another, you looked at the group of insects and smiled silently. System prompt: you have unlocked the achievement Domination of Bean High School Tennis, and the achievement point is Add 1. You can clearly feel that as you become more and more familiar with tennis, the genetic adjustment and neural reflex strengthening are adapting to your body at a terrifying speed. Your ghost-like phantom on the tennis court also makes the coach fascinated. He sincerely requests you to join the tennis club and go to the national competition to show your style. You agreed, but said that you would not follow the rules of the tennis department. The coach happily affirmed and believed that geniuses have privileges. That night, you told Rina-chan that you planned to write a novel. Rina-chan said in surprise that another friend of hers also submitted an article. You deliberately used a slightly dissatisfied tone to show your strong desire to possess her, and the girl reluctantly refused. The manuscript of The Reincarnation of Succubus that you submitted to Dengeki Bunko has been completed. You shared the news with Rina excitedly. Sister, I've finished the manuscript, you can see my new work soon. I'm afraid it's a straight shot. Asaba Kazuma decisively sent a video to Ishihara. Rina in the background. In the video, the beautiful boy is sitting in front of the computer with a smile, and the bright smile on his face makes people's hearts melt. You excitedly invited Ishihara Rina to come out to celebrate. Ishihara Rina was moved, but still chose to refuse. You know Rina is no better than a little goblin who often tries to escape, she is afraid of the outside world. You have determined the path you want to take in this period of your life and are determined to be her eyes. Editor Yuzuki Tamura of Dengeki Bunko contacted you and informed you that a new book will be released soon, and the typewritten new book has been mailed to your home in advance. You decided. Sister, at what speed can I meet you? No matter how difficult the road ahead is, as long as the direction is correct, no matter how bumpy it is, you are closer to happiness than standing still. A person's first time should be reserved for the most important person. Free simulation. Asaba Kazuma, 6. This simulation option is causing trouble. It seems that there is nothing wrong with every option, but how could a second-time veteran like Asaba Kazuma not see the trap in it? The option is a line from 5 centimeters per second, a well-known cement heart sealing masterpiece, and it is certified as male. The option is the line from Spirited Away. Chihiro returned to real life and forgot everything. The option is the lines of Porco Rosso. Although the ending is open-ended, but, in the ending of Porco Rosso, you can see Porco Rosso's private plane parked in Gina's garden in the distance, although it is a bit disappointing to the other person. Good girl Fio, but a really nice ending. Choose. A person's first time should be reserved for the most important person. There are 37 million people in the Tokyo City area, but only my sister can share this joy with me. Sister, can I go and accompany you? Sly the boy once again sent the video to Rina-chan's backstage. He was holding a book, and the smile and tenderness in the corners of his eyes almost overwhelmed Rina Ishihara. Can't he refuse? Can't refuse. Can't refuse. No matter how unwilling she is to contact the outside world, at this moment, she simply cannot refuse your begging. You are a devil who plays with people's hearts. Poor Rina has no idea that after bathing in your sunshine, it becomes more and more unbearable for her to endure the darkness, and it becomes more and more difficult for her to reject you. The scene unfolds and the perspective is once again split in two. Location, Ishihara's house. Inside the door was Ishihara Rina, who was restless. Outside the door, there was an uneasy Kinha Kazuma. Although Asaba Kazuma already knew Ishihara Rina's address, if he broke in directly, it would definitely arouse the girl's suspicion. Ishihara Rina is a social phobia, but she is not a fool. That was a vigilant kitten, and there was no way she could get close without dispelling her doubts. Use the most reasonable request and approach her carefully to get the best sign. My only friend in Tokyo is you. It is his monologue to her, and it is also a hug between two lonely people for warmth. Ding. When he pressed the unfamiliar doorbell, even though Kinya Kazuma had a big heart, he couldn't help but become nervous at this moment. At this time, Ishihara Rina stood at the door of the room and was restless. Her emotional dullness was like a house with closed doors and windows. Although she heard the footsteps of friendship walking past and back in front of the house, she felt that they were passing footsteps heading towards someone else. Until one day, those footsteps stopped here, and then doorbell rang. She looked back at the dilapidated house, the clean but messy furniture, and her clumsy self, trying to pretend that no one was at home. but Asahi Kazuma pressed the doorbell persistently. Once. Again. Again and again. As if telling her, "What I'm looking for is you in this house. I will wait outside the door until you are willing to open the door for me." Suddenly, the doorbell stopped ringing. Rina Ishihara, who was standing at the door, paused for a moment, indescribable fear filling her heart. Is he gone? Did I do something wrong again? She subconsciously looked at the peephole on the door to see if the boy had left. Then, there was a gentle knock on the door. The young man's clear voice was like a lover's whisper, "Sister, I heard your footsteps." The next moment, the door opened. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. We've traveled through Tokyo, who still wants to simulate love? Author, Fei Se Huasiang. Chapter 20. When Ishihara Rina poked her little head out from behind the door, Asahi Kazuma wanted to laugh. Especially when her eyes met his, the panic on her face made him want to rua. So cute. Sister, don't you invite me in? It's so windy outside, Asahi Kazuma said. Huan, welcome home. As soon as she finished speaking, her expression froze because she saw the young man at the door looking at her with a slightly subtle expression. Unconsciously, his expression started to become dry. Yes, right. I'm back. Kinyu Fengjian looked at her with a half smile. If it were placed in the manga, there would be smoke rising from the head of the girl who made the slip at this time. However, now is not the time for Rina Ishihara to be shy. She panicked and placed a pair of clean slippers at Asahi Kazuma's feet, watching the boy put them on in a familiar manner. When he bent down, she could vaguely see the boy's slender and distinct collarbone through the gaps in his sweater. For some reason, she felt a little hungry. Seeing her little shark-stop-thinking attitude, Asahi Kazuma simply squatted down, gently pulled down the collar with her fingers, and said, pretending to be curious, "Sister, do you like watching this very much?" I didn't peek," Rina Ishihara screamed. She felt like her heart was beating out of her chest. Facing his clean eyes, a strong sense of guilt suddenly arose in her heart, and a dirty thought that was wasted by pressing him at the door. The excessive impact left her speechless. She had been silent for a long time, and even normal conversation seemed a little difficult for her. What's worse is that she can't even defend herself. Because she knew that although she thought she had never been a beauty controller, she felt a fluttering feeling just when she looked into his eyes. The young man in front of her was like a legendary succubus, easily arousing her emotions. This put a slightly ashamed expression on her face. Because she knew that it was not the boy who was wrong. The reason why she was so fascinated was because his smile hit her right in the heart. Knowing that whatever she said was sophistry, Ishihara Rina closed her eyes in pain, not wanting to see the young man's disappointed expression on her. So sister doesn't like it? I also said that if you like it, I can take a few more pictures of you in my school uniform. Rina Ishihara was stunned for a moment. She suddenly felt a little moved. Oyster. 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 She shook her head wildly. Although it looks good, it is unethical. Wait a minute, are today's high school students already so good at it? She clearly remembers that boys were relatively shy a few years ago. Why are they acting so straight now? Is it true that I have been out of society for too long? Ishihara Rina tried her best to make a jerky voice. Well, you are a boy, and boys should pay attention to their own safety when they go out. Especially someone like you. No, because sister is my only friend in Tokyo. Asahi Kazuma moved forward slightly and approached the trembling girl, but sister reminded me that this kind of behavior crossed the line. Obviously I was watching it's like this because my sister likes it very much. I'm sorry. Ishihara Rina lowered her head and said softly. Suddenly, A pair of warm hands rubbed her messy hair. When Rina Ishihara raised her head, Asahi Kazuma finally had the opportunity to take a good look at the girl's whole face. Under the bangs that somewhat blocked the view, there were a pair of wet eyes covered by black-rimmed glasses. The long eyelashes were trembling, the beautiful bridge of the nose was twitching, and the lips were red and clear but with a little grievance, which made Qian Yufengjian's heart trembled. Miscalculated. After finally pushing the door open, I thought he was a hunter with a shotgun in the dark forest, but suddenly he caught a prey that was stupidly lighting up a bonfire. Never imagine that the hunter and the prey are one and the same. So much so that he looked a little lost in thought. Fortunately, Ishihara Rina is more absorbed than him. Recalling the third simulation, he showed a sly smile and whispered in her ear. "It's okay, sister. It's not an easy task to capture you. It makes me sad that my sister doesn't want to see me. When I feel sad, I will want to hold you firmly in my hands, no matter how despicable the method is, just like the mistake my sister made just now. No, I didn't take care of myself. Why is my sister afraid of being found out by me? Because of... Perhaps my sister's original intention was that I looked good and wanted to see me more." Asahi Kazuma's slender fingers stroked her cheek, took off her glasses, pushed her messy hair aside, completely revealing the girl's beautiful and moist little face, and said mischievously. "But what if I tell you that I deliberately wanted my sister to see it? The look on my sister's fascinated expression is so cute, I can't help but hide you and taste it carefully." The boy's words were like the devil's temptation. Everyone who signs a contract with the devil thinks that he can profit from the devil. But the vast majority of them are like moths fluttering into a flame, confused and lured into a trap by the devil. This is Asahi Kazuma's strategy this time. He wants Ishihara Rina to taste the green and shy fruit. Once she stepped into her own trap, it was almost impossible to climb out. Satan will have your face tattooed on his back, and the #1 publicist in Tokyo will enshrine your name in a shrine. Asahi Kazuma, you were born to be a devil, but Ishihara Rina still stepped into your trap without hesitation. You shared your new book with her and forced her to add you to line. Maybe it's because of the ambiguity downstairs just now that she simply can't develop the ability to say no in front of you. You didn't stay overnight at her house because you saw that if you did, she would have a stress reaction after finally compromising. This is the bottom line she is not allowed to cross now. But you know, Ishihara Rina can't hold on for long, because you told her that you will come to her every time a new book is released in the future. This sentence was quietly remembered by the girl. Although she was forced by you, she did not hate this feeling. Being able to meet you next time has become what she has been looking forward to most for a long time. You have lived a peaceful life affected by your Chinese proficiency skills. You do not need to invest more time in foreign language subjects. You informed Mr. Hayakawa that you plan to embark on the path of physical education students. Haruna Hayakawa tells you seriously that it is impossible for ordinary sports students to enter Dongying University. She hopes you give up this option. Shirakawa High School is not a strong sports school, especially tennis. It is far inferior to the national level sports baseball in Dongying. You rejected her and said with a smile, "We've traveled through Tokyo, who still wants to simulate love?" Author, Fei Se Hui Xiang. Chapter 22. I'm fine with any time. Ishihara Rina didn't realize that her voice was trembling. Kinya Kazuma looked at her funny, took the key, and looked at her quietly until her face became redder and redder, and then said, "Is it possible to attack at night? If you keep doing this, I won't give you the key," she said softly. Your relationship with Ishihara Rina has taken a further step, and your career has quietly begun to set sail. The coach tells you that you have to go with him to communicate with the tennis departments of major universities. During this period you readily agree and promise to beat them to tears. First day of exchange, playing ball. The second day of exchange, playing ball. On the third day of the exchange, the deputy director of the tennis department of Suncheon High School was beaten to tears. On the fourth day of summer vacation, Asahakazuma, Asahakazuma, how could you be so depraved? What about the promise not to bully high school students? We can't continue like this. On the 5th day of summer vacation, the head of the tennis department of Suncheon High School was beaten to tears. The coach of Suncheon Tennis Club invites you to join their school, promises to make you his most perfect work, and shows you that their tennis club manager is not as big as Rina Ishihara. Reincarnated Succubus Volume 2 became more and more popular. Tamura Yuzuki found you and invited you to attend the book signing, and you readily agreed. When you go back that night, Ishihara Rina asks you if you have something on your mind while scolding your hands for playing with her Geo uncontrollably. You tell her that the recent competition has been a bit boring, and the novel is not going well. The scene unfolds. Ishihara Rina's little feet were placed in Asabakazuma's arms, her face turned red as she listened to him talk about playing tennis these days. Even if she doesn't exercise, she knows that Asabakazuma seems to be stronger than she imagined. You know, among the 980 colleges and universities in the metropolitan area, there are 821 hard tennis clubs and 555 soft tennis clubs. It can be said that, excluding national sports such as baseball and football, tennis is definitely one of the most popular ball clubs in colleges and universities. These days, Asabakazuma is challenging traditional sports schools, including some that are champions in national tennis competitions among colleges and universities. However, he defeated his opponents without exception. "What's going on with the new book?" she whispered. "Is it because of the illustrations?" Asabakazuma nodded and said, "I've had enough of the illustrators who are not up to par. If they don't have the ability, they might as well replace me." He paused for a moment and pinched the sole of the girl's foot maliciously. The girl let out an exclamation, and then heard him say, "My sister's illustrations are the best in the world. Since my sister is not willing to fight for it, then I will take the crown for you and give the industry a little shock." Ishihara Rina was helpless. She finally figured out that the bratty brother was evil and deliberately used the pretext of studying illustration to come after her. But she doesn't hate it. "Isn't that why you gave him the house key?" However, in order to better teach him, times, and better seduce him to accompany her, in the past 6 months, she has almost tried every means to learn various painting techniques from the internet. After seeing and learning more, she realized that her painting skills seemed pretty good. After all, Asahakazuma often downloads popular works from the P station for her to taste, but she always feels that most of them are not very good. After reading more, she realized that she seemed to be a little bit good in the field of illustration. However, what surprised her even more was Asabakazuma's learning progress in illustration. "Kazuma, your illustrations are progressing so fast." Qianyu was speechless and choked in the wind. What does he mean by his rapid progress? You know, he started the simulation with skills. The painting skills that simulated Rina Ishihara's peak period last time became the basis for his learning this time. It can be said that he was standing in the sky from the beginning. But now, he suddenly realized that things were not that simple. Rina Ishihara grew up too fast. It was precisely because he knew something about the painting industry that he could understand how terrifying her growth rate was. He is a thief, and she is the undisputed genius. Although he restrained himself, it seemed that in order to better teach him more illustration knowledge, Ishihara Rina's talent was fully activated. Especially today, he can clearly feel that he has reached the end of his illustrations, but Rina Ishihara, she is still accelerating. Is this the talented beautiful girl recognized by Kyunulu? However, she still lacks a little confidence. "Sister." Kinhakazuma gently held her face and said, "I will use the skills you taught me to become the illustrator of the next volume of Reincarnation of the Succubus. If I can do it, you will become my personal painter." Asahakazuma's cunning words made the girl blush with embarrassment. Some people can only hear painter, and some people can only hear exclusive. Ishihara pushes you gently. You and her are deep enough that you don't need words to understand that she agrees. Seeing your successful smile, she ran away a little frustrated, and said that your focus now is on the Kanto competition. Succubus Reincarnated Volume 3 was a big hit, and you participated in the book signing. Your fans never thought that behind such an otaku-friendly work, there was actually a beautiful boy from Tokyo. Asaba Kazuma makes a grand appearance, and you become a popular writer on Twitter. The reincarnation of Succubus was announced to be animated with this east wind. You showed your illustrations to editor Tamura and hope to start from the next volume since you are specifically responsible for the illustrations of your own novels. Denjiki Bunko agreed. Volume 4 of the novel was released, and your illustrations caused an uproar in the industry. Even the animation production team supervisor came to you for information. Using this as a springboard, you contacted the editor of the Shonen Jump Weekly and showed him the comic you carefully prepared, titled Tennis Prince. The year the Prince of Tennis was serialized, you were no longer unrivaled in the Tokyo High School tennis circle, and based on this, you entered the University of Tokyo. System prompt: you have unlocked the achievement of dominating colleges and universities across the country and tennis, and the achievement points are at 2. System prompt: you have unlocked the achievement and I want to take the exam to Dongda University, achievement points add 2. On the day you got the news, you had a rare drink at Rina Ishihara's house and had a drink after you got tipsy. You tried to get a kiss as a reward, but she blushed and refused. The scene unfolds. Asayu Kazuma was very awake, but her eyes were a little blurry. Sister, I have been invited to participate in the 45 project. After finishing the tennis satellite tournament, I should be able to become a person worthy of being relied on. Ishihara looked at the boy without knowing why. For some reason, she always felt that he was getting more and more anxious recently, as if there was some ferocious beast chasing him behind him. She tried asking him what was going on, but he never said anything. In order to cheer him up, she took the initiative and stretched out her clean feet. She didn't think much about it, she just wanted him to be happy. Suddenly, Kinya Kazuma raised her head. Sister. Yeah, I'm here. Am I someone important to you? The girl suddenly became angry, but she still tried to look at him and said, it's very important. Asayu Kazuma leaned forward and buried his head in her neck with her restless expression. Ishihara's eyes were a little confused, wary, aggrieved and doubtful, but she heard him say, my sister is a very stupid guy, and she got lost without paying attention. I'm not stupid, she said seriously. Real. Look, I've updated the things at home, and put common quick-acting medicines in the medical kit for you. My future development will be stable and good, so. Qian Yufeng Jian bit her neck gently, and she let out a muffled groan. At this time, he was like a wild beast, seeming to swallow her whole. Sister, you are also a very important person to me, so, when you are in danger, call me for help as soon as possible. No matter where you are, I will come back to you. Don't do anything stupid. Ishihara nodded, her heart beating fast. She felt that he was a bit dangerous today. If he didn't agree, he might be pressed on the leg and beaten until his buttocks were red and swollen. But she didn't see the anxiety in Asahi Kazuma's eyes at this moment. At this moment, there are still 2 months before the Tokyo blackout that caused Ishihara's death. That is the countdown to death hanging over her head. It's not that he wasn't fully prepared, but the more intimate they became, the more frightened and uneasy he became. He was afraid that she would just fly away.